So, John, it's amazing how, in such a short period of time, this concept of ESG has just come to the forefront in business. I mean, we see it everywhere. And in particular, in the past, I would say year, ESG has really taken off in the realm of supply chain management. It seems like every thing I read now has something about it. Um, the timing of you entering this position as Chief Sustainability Officer seems really timely, especially since Tyson's the number one producer in the world of protein. It seems like looking at the protein supply chain, the global protein supply chain, through the lens of sustainability really makes sense. But before we get into that, I'd like to talk about your role a little bit because your role, I know you're Chief Sustainability Officer, but when I read about it, it sounds broader than that. It sounds like it includes ESG. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, Matt. If I could, I'll just share a little bit about sustainability at Tyson and my role and what our team does. But yeah, I think it was already said, but my name is John Tyson, and I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Tyson Foods. Um, I've been in my role for about 18 months now, not quite. And this was a role that we created in 2017 for the first time, reporting to the CEO to kind of share with you where we are in our journey of making sustainability a priority at Tyson. In my role, I lead a few different independent but interconnected functions that all roll up to sustainability. Um, our environmental team, our animal welfare team, our corporate social responsibility team all report into me, as well as our corporate diversity and inclusion efforts and our procurement team. We believe that by linking all these things together, we can drive for the sustainability or ESG outcomes that we want, and we do it in a bunch of different ways, Matt.
So having procurement reporting into you, that makes a lot of sense, especially since you have a goal of really a vision for long-term sustainability in the protein supply chain. Would you speak to that a little bit, the vision
Yeah,
overall?
well, I'm glad you asked. I think that at Tyson, everything we do starts with our purpose. We always say, which is to raise the world's expectations for how much good food can do. Um, as it relates to what our sustainability ambitions are, I like to sum it up very quickly. Our ambition is to be the most sustainable and transparent protein company in the world. Full stop. Um, I think additionally, in addition to talking about the vision and the our ambitions, it's also important to talk about, I think, the sense of responsibility we feel at Tyson. It's really a privilege to work at a company, Matt, where we wake up in the morning and we feel like we're feeding the world. Um, we feel like everyone in the world needs access to healthy, nutritious, affordable food that's produced responsibly and is available anywhere that they want protein. Um, so I think without those kind of north stars or ambitions that the whole team can get aligned to, we wouldn't be able to do what we've accomplished so far. And the clarity about what our goals are, I think, enables not just our team, but all of our customers and supply chain partners to come together to make sure we're all rowing in the same direction, so to say.
Well, of course, all supply chains are chains, they're networks of suppliers and companies, and it's really hard for one node in the supply chain, even if it's a huge node like Tyson, to really achieve significant progress in sustainability and ESG broadly without the involvement of the suppliers. So how are you planning to really work with supply chain partners to achieve that vision?
Um, how should I answer that question? I think there's a few different things that go into it, really. First, you heard me talk about making sure we're clear about what our ambitions and our goals are. And I think when we do that, it allows those of our business partners who have a similar or shared vision and mission about their own work to come alongside us, or for us to come alongside them, us to come together and work together. We have a lot of customers that we operate the same way. And what we have, I think, learned from our customers is, um, you know, when you have a shared long-term vision, it allows you to make investments in some of these sustainability projects that maybe have uh, less tangible paybacks in the immediate term, but are certainly valuable to customers and to business partners all along the supply chain. I think, in addition to communicating just about the high level 30,000 foot view and vision, um, we also try to be as transparent and use as much data as possible. The old adage is you can't manage what you don't measure. And I think that is certainly a challenge, especially as you have, business like ours with a big global interconnected supply chain. But you got to start somewhere. So we've started to report data about our own business on emissions, about water use, about our diversity and inclusion aspirations and our workforce. And we'll start to expect our suppliers to do the same thing. And it takes time to build those kinds of programs so that information sharing can be done in a way that is usable and translatable across everyone's different internal and interconnected uh, business systems, the software that kind of connects everything. But just because it's complex and difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't get started on it. So I think uh, to oversimplify, it all comes back to communication, but that communication takes place in a few different ways.
That reminds me, back in the 90s, we used to use this game, and we still use it some, but I used to use it in all my classes and even in exec ed programs. And it was called the beer game. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's not the, people always think of quarters or something like that. It's not that. It's a production and distribution game, and it is so much fun. I mean, like I said, I've used it in classes for years, but I've used it in exec ed with all kinds of companies over the years. And it basically it's four stages. The first stage is the production of beer. The next stage is distribution, and then warehousing, and then retail. When you play this game with people, only the player, the retailer, can see consumer demand. So each period they flip over a card and they see demand and they have to fulfill it, and then they have to place an order on the warehouse, and the warehouse looks at the order and has to place an order. It keeps going on upstream, right? Well, what no one knows in the game until the very end is that the demand that the retailer's seeing, the cards, if I haven't done this for a long time, but I believe it's like four, four, four. It's four per week for like 5 weeks, and then it switches to eight. And then it stays eight for 30 periods. But at the very end of the game, one thing you always have people do is people who are in production, you have them go to the whiteboard and draw a graph of what they think demand looks like. And they drive these huge swings. They think consumer demand must have gone from like 4 to 100 and then to zero. And they draw these crazy graphs. And so, of course, everyone's surprised. In fact, usually at the end, the people who are producers will go actually look at the cards. They're so incredulous. And during the game, you see tons of inventory build up. And then, if there's time, you replay the game where everyone can see consumer demand. And without any sophisticated algorithms, it nearly solves the problem. So, yeah, I know that's really technical because it has to do with orders and units demanded, but we've modified it over the years for other kinds of things. And it is this point you made about sharing and communicating. Really, it's true in anything. Even if you're just a leader in an organization, if people have a mental image of where you're going, it's so much easier for everyone else to kind of fall in and use their capabilities and strengths to do that.
I'll um, I'll just share a different example to belabor that same point. I mean, um, even communicating with my peers, my coworkers at Tyson, I think despite how clear we sometimes think we are in laying out, here are social ESG aspirations and goals. Here's what we're working on from an environmental standpoint. Um, we eat, sleep, and breathe it every day, my team, but forget that sometimes our other colleagues are not are focused on it. Um, but it's still something that we find ourselves constantly needing to educate and just connect people to say, hey, here's how your work fits into our sustainability or our ESG aspirations. Um, you're also talking about just the unpredictability of demand in the game that you shared. Of course, our business, a significant portion of it is fresh protein, and so there are supply and constraints and just marketability constraints that we have to be mindful of that make our business complex. And without good communication between ourselves and our customers, the success we've had would not be possible.
John, with COVID-19 causing so much disruption globally and the supply chain, what are some ways communication and really leadership can bring about more harmony in the supply chain?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that I'll speak about our business, Matt. In 2020, we saw a lot of attention and enthusiasm from people and wanting to know more about where their food comes from, in the U.S. specifically, and also around the world. And so I think communication and linking that to our sustainability and ESG work is super important because we started trying to we've been telling a good story at Tyson for a lot of years, and the moment that there's a lot of attention placed on our business and our industry, I think we were proud to have be able to showcase a lot of the good work that we've done over the last however many years, and through the pandemic, making sure that food was still available on tables and on supermarket shelves. Um, I think the other way that communication plays a role, independent of COVID-19, but as it relates to sustainability, is information and transparency. We believe will allow us to compete in the marketplace for consumers and customers, and therefore we feel like if we can keep up in the bar, raising the bar, up in the ante on what we communicate and disclose with various investors and kind of these ESG ratings and rankings agencies that are out there, we think at Tyson we can be successful and differentiate ourselves among our peers. And so, I never, I never. I never want to skip over anytime I have the chance to talk about our business and sustainability, that we're also still out there trying to win in the marketplace and compete on a day-to-day basis.
Well, John, for as long as I can remember, Tyson has been the leader in protein production and distribution in the world. And so it's really exciting to see what you're doing and to see your aspirations around transparency and sustainability and really ESG broadly. I look forward to the future, and thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Matt. It's been enjoyable to talk with you, and today, and for our listeners that don't know, we've also had the chance to work together, and I just want to say thanks to you for all the work that you do here in our Northwest Arkansas community, helping train the future business leaders of tomorrow. It's important work, and of course, the university has a very well respected supply chain program, which is important for all the listeners on this call today too, and we shouldn't go without mentioning that.
Thank you.